Hey everybody, welcome to Not Another Tooling podcast with myself, Austin Pearson, and my co-host, Mr. Matt Malcolm on mile 657.
It's a few.
Today, we are going to talk about the mid-market tools revolution. So, Matt, do you want to introduce us to the topic and what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah. This won't be a massively long podcast, but I think it's worthwhile mentioning because there's definitely like a raft of budget cuts and stuff across the industry, more in public sector than private, but everyone's feeling the pinch, I'm guessing. And I think at the moment, people are looking towards the bigger vendors, like, making little pinches here and there and looking for reductions and stuff. And ultimately, it's still a massive spend for most organizations. And what I've noticed is looking outside of the fray, or is the grass greener, or whatever the right terminology would be, there's actually a hell of a lot of good things out in the market that are not like back in the day, like this is not a workable product, but actually very legitimate products, whichever the capability, that are going to fulfill a huge percentage, might not be all of it, but a huge percentage of most organization requirements. But more often than not, it's at half the price, a third of the price, a quarter of the price of some of the market leading technologies. So I'm kind of looking there thinking, are we seeing like this mass of mid-market coming up, or revolution as we're calling this session? And is it going to disrupt all of these main players versus historically, certainly our day, it was big player and then big player and then big player. But now I feel like it's this, like piranhas. That's a bad analogy. Our history is like shark territory. Big shark product, bigger shark product, bigger shark product, faster shark. Now I feel like there's a bunch of badass piranhas that are just in there. And now there's enough of them, they're going to eat up the sharks. That's what it feels like. And are we on the cusp of it? Where should we be in it? What should we position ourselves in? Like, what's it going to look like? So I don't know at the moment. I just know it's out there and there's a shift taking place.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And as somebody who's worked for a big vendor and then come to a smaller vendor and then seen them rise up to become a much bigger player, it's really interesting. And of course, this is where a lot of the big the great players have come from. You look at Splunk, for example, and where do they come from? They saw a gap in the marketplace and started off pretty small and pretty cheap, and then turned into the monster they are today. It's not a good or a bad monster, by the way, just
a different kind.
Yeah,
you know what though, like the history, ultimately most of even the bigger vendors now have started small. That's normal. I mean, the thing that's different now is that rate of from being small to being big can be so much shorter because the technology is so much more advanced and things have been made in a different way, and there's new platforms, forums, frameworks. Things move so quick now. So yes, you can start off small and you can get to big, but the gap is so much smaller in terms of the timeline because the complexity of the hurdle is less. Yeah. So but then you do that, and then it's not just this now. There's like 5 of these guys that are small, maybe 3 of them make it big. So this choice, like customers, I feel in not even in the future, right now, if they need a capability, whatever it is across the stuff we talk about, if they need to reduce their costs right now, you go to market. This is a worst case because it's a rigmarole. You go to market, see what products are out there with your capabilities, you will save money. That's absolutely it. So if you really need to do a cost reduction exercise right now, but you still need to maintain your capability, high likely, and I'm including the overall TCV, right? Everything, the transition, the migration, everything. You'd be hard pushed not to be able to replace a lot of the tech stack to something more cost effective. Most of it.
Interesting.
That's a pause for interesting with a degree of disagreements.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Let's go.
I probably see there are some spaces where that's true. So ITSM tools, I think there's some great smaller ITSM tools out there that are fabulous. And ITSM is one of those things where nobody ever gets the real value out of all this stuff anyway. And you could get away with probably 20% of the functionality you need. So you could go do that. If you looked at something like monitoring, I think you'd struggle.
I've got a good response for this, but I'll let you finish. Go on.
Just because even having seen some of the big players, for example, like Dynatrace, who started off in the APM space, they know what they're doing there, and then they've been trying to get into the infrastructure space for the last few years. With all their heritage, they've really struggled because they just don't have the experience and the depth to be able to get up to speed. Is my view, but
so
disagree.
Specifically, forget that word out of my mouth, Jesus. In the monitoring space, I feel that, and this is one person I do want to bring onto the podcast because we talked about this a little while ago, this topic. So I'm going to it's not my information, it's from him. But in the monitoring space, I think there'll be a shift to move towards no monitoring. So like achieving monitoring with whatever stuff is available in the estate, but doing something with it. So more the usage of monitoring information versus having a purposeful monitoring product. So we're talking down the degree of, might be like the Splunk type territories or an analytics type functions, all the way through to things like open telemetry. But looking across the estate to capture what's happening natively within each of these products to then do something with it. You put that into the perspective of the cloud environment, like that's blown away, right? That's exactly, you don't need to go down the route as much depending on what functionality you need. A bit more difficult in the more archaic monolithic environments, but I feel there's going to be some avenue down there where our monitoring, look at the market. How many monitoring solutions are there versus analytic solutions? Why is a lot of the market moving towards more an analytic play versus a monitoring play? There's got to be something going on there. So that's why I feel for the monitoring piece specifically, I feel that disruption will be not even in a monitoring tool. Like I'm looking for a mid-market solution right now because I need to service the requirement for a customer. I need some sort of nice mid-market solution that will get me off the ground, not the big boy, not the fancy stuff, just like I need this with some decent event management. Give me that, please. And I'm not thinking, what else is there? I'm more moving towards native solutions for cloud platforms or just generating noise and putting it somewhere. So yeah, I don't know, the monitoring space. I can't put my finger on it, but it's not as black and white, man, I feel.
Well, we're definitely going to disagree on that one for sure. Having seen...
No, we don't disagree on much. This is good.
I know, yeah, this is true. But having seen MubeSoft pretty spectacularly fail at taking that approach, and you see other vendors coming in and trying to go down that route of analytics on top of all these different monitoring tools, because it is hard, right? Particularly if you're a big organization and you've got embedded monitoring for years and years, the easy answer is to put some analytics over the top of that. But you've got to have great data to be able to put into that analytics stuff, and most people don't have it, and you just putting a sticking plaster over things is my experience. But if you did all the monitoring bits right, then yeah, you could definitely do something with that. But I agree, it's a trend that everybody loves right now. Everybody is very excited about AI ops, and let's just put a bit of magic on the top of all of our rubbish monitoring that we've got.
All right, let's move back to the mid-market stuff then. So there is that, we can continue that another time for sure. So what other capabilities, where is this not a real scenario? I think in the analytics space, there is a raft of solutions coming on the market, whether it's native within some other solution or separate.
Agreed.
Even then I was thinking around things like automation, things like RPA, where traditionally you're paying big bucks for some of these big vendors for obvious reasons. There's so many products that are coming into this state where maybe it's not true RPA or true automation, but you're going to achieve 70% of that use case, and it isn't really going to cost you 10% of what it would be for these bigger vendors. So I don't know, I feel you could go in and be a really savvy CTO or head of technology tooling, whatever else, and you could build your capability model with, I don't want to use the words, but it's the best way to describe it, a budget solution architecture for it, that you could easily achieve the capability with a slice of the budget, as long as you're willing to forego some things. You talked about Dynatrace as an example. I know we don't talk about products specifically, but let's use that. Bells, whistles, premium product. Well, it's got 3, 4, 5 core capabilities, probably more soon. They'll be soon chasing the heels of Splunk as well. But what if you just chop those up? Chop those up, and I'll have that one to there, that one to there. That one's lovely. Can't find a replacement. Okay, so we don't get 20% functionality. but we're actually saving a huge amount. So I don't know. I think there's a really strong play not to go, and this isn't alienating any vendors. It's more like, do you need to go to this massive premium shopping, this top shelf, to get your house in order? Because then what we've had this conversation before, right? We go and overspend up here, and it's either you've been sold a dream or you're keeping up with the Joneses, all other reasons. But you know, those are definitely what I've seen the most of. Missold, that for sure fucking happens. Or you're getting it because another colleague, ex-partner, somebody else has got it, and you're like keeping face. But then you cannot afford to keep it. It's too expensive. You can't afford the team. You can't afford anything else. So why put yourself in that position? Just forego some of that functionality, get this mid-market, and actually afford to run it, do it properly. These guys down here in the mature mid-market space, I mean, I feel quite comfortable with this for a lot of the technologies. They will surpass the overall capability, like utilization, for these guys who have overspent or spend the right amount on these premium products and never get to use them. Like you mentioned around the ITSM stack there, that is super common. You've got a big stack, never use it. Don't even buy it. What's the point, man? Just don't joke yourself. Just to get down here, get good, get so good that you're pushing the mid-market vendor you're working with to grow, because they will grow with you. They'll happily grow with you. And that'll be much more fulfilling from an everybody perspective. Your budget holder, you as an organization, people getting upskilled, the new vendor, that's much healthier than going up here and never really getting there and being disappointed and being shitty relationships. It's pointless. Yeah, that's observations. That's active observations through lots of conversations for the last few years for myself, is right size yourself. But right now, today's world, that middle layer is more and more strong. You know,
I agree, and I think these things that we have in our hand give us a really good way of looking at that, because when you go to download an app for something, right, you go download an app, and it's, if you were to sit down and write all your requirements out, you're never going to download any apps. You're going to do a load of research. You're never going to get anywhere, and whatever. What happens is you download something that does 50-60% of what you want. It's got the core capability for setting reminders to do X and Y and Z, but it doesn't do it in the flashy colors you want with quite the right sounds or whatever, but it does what you need and you get the job done. And I think that mentality now allows us to go out and say, well, actually, maybe we don't need all the flashy stuff. Maybe we can get the stuff that we really need at a lot lower price point and get a load of value out of that, versus not getting the value we need out of some really expensive things. Yeah, I think you're right. I think logging is one of those spaces that is absolutely right. There's so many players coming up doing really cool stuff, and then it spawns people like Cribble, who've got an awesome little solution.
I'm actually due to arrange a conversation. I mean, I know we don't talk about vendors, but I need to have a conversation with them actually. Yeah,
and think about like people like Turbonomics that obviously started off like that and then turned into an incredible product. I think there's a lot of really, really cool stuff out there, for sure, if people go out and look for what they really need.
So let's play on that for a second, because this is factual, right? We could have achieved a lot of the mid-market capabilities we need with some of these more, best way to word it, hand cranked products. Super capable. You get the right skills and all the rest of that jazz. You'll get what you need, but you need that raft of intellect to do it. Hire the people in, contractor or whatever. You need something. So like, I think the strength in this mid-market is no, I want to turn it on Monday and I want to be like ready to go on like Friday. Like that level of mid-market, that's where I'd see there'd be massive growth. And there might be in the other areas where you can build it yourself and do everything you want if you're going to put the time in. No, I don't want to put the time in. I want to turn it on and I want it to work by the end of the week. That mid-market player, in whatever the capability is, they're going to be the ones where the customer would have been going to the big vendors where it's all plug and play, so to say, and it didn't work out. They go, okay, well, actually, I can just turn this one on and I'll get it all. Okay, well, that's going to be like the sweet spot to be in that space, have the functionality that's presented, sold, and been able to actually use it quickly. versus some of the other products, which are definitely better because they're much more flexible, but you're going to put so much hand cranking into it to get what you need. Either you've got the skills, you're going to bring in the skills, or whatever else, that actually, back to our many conversations, is the TCV worth it? We've got to put a lot into this. Is it really worth it? We've just trained up 3 of our guys, or 1 of our guys in a lot of cases, and then he fucks off because he's now skilled in that product. Now what are you going to do? Now you've got a great solution, overcomplicated, achieves your demand right now. What if it breaks, if it changes? So yeah, the point I'm trying to get at is mid-market stuff, but simplest view possible.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one, because the skills part of it is something that I've been talking to a lot of people about recently, because the amount you have to invest in skills for some of these products is pretty crazy. Or you buy a managed service of it from somewhere else. But a lot of those mid-market products, you could almost rent resource to say, all right, okay, well, we need to start building these reports and these dashboards and yada, yada, yada. Let's just buy somebody for a couple of weeks and then away we go. Because they're fairly simple and easy to use, rather than having to think, I need to build a business case to get a full-time resource, or I need to add 50% to the cost so that somebody else can manage it for me, and yada yada. There's a lot easier.
I like that terminology. That, I mean, it's a bit crude to talk about people that's been rented, but that is a good perspective of actually being able to progress with before we've got really dark end, with progressing your solution, is if you can just get them in for that piece of work and then get rid of them. Because what we see, you mentioned the word there, is that I would train your resource, and we know that's a rigmarole, that's just a harder activity to do, or bringing in a third party for a longer period. But all of those scenarios there, you're just stuck, potentially overcommitting in some cases. That idea of bringing someone in for that defined piece of work, that's what the operating model should be. Maybe you have one person or a limited structure. I'm going back to the day when I used to manage, between 2 of us, 3 of us, we managed the whole enterprise tools, everything, monitoring, analytics. Remedy was the product back in the day, and some other stuff, all with 3 people. And we had a guy who was dead techie, was a developer type folk, and then me and another guy was more admin. It was my first tooling role, actually, as a whole. There's 3 of us. If we go to an organization now, there's 2 or 3 people per product. So the model what you're referring to there, like having somebody inside who's doing the BAU, keeping the cogs working, all the rest of it, and then bringing people in short term on fixed activities, that's a model to aspire to. Because then you ain't got to worry about this massive overhead or overcommitting. That's what we definitely see as a problem, is you've now got the shiny thing, but you now got to pay probably the same price as the product in some cases, if not more, to do anything with it.
Yeah, I think one trap that you could fall into, though, if you went this way, is then trying to make your mid-market product do what your enterprise grade product did, right? And that's where it goes back to all of our conversations of, like, you need to keep your eye on the prize, right? What do you really need to achieve? And every time you're asking for a new feature or function or developing something or whatever, what does it bring to the business? Because a lot of this stuff that is out there is lovely and somebody has a requirement for it somewhere, but is it really helping you to sell more widgets or, get more loans to your customers or whatever it is?
That's really true. That is, because you're right. And I could easily get lost in, let's just make this product into the best thing, it's perfect. But then we're in the same trap. We're just in the same scenario. So actually, really, you want to be fairly lean and strict with what you've got. Otherwise, you'll just fall into a revolving door of development, trying to always get to the next best thing. Where actually, if you just flex the requirements to the max, so to speak, with the product as is, and you ever heard the difference between talking about, we don't do, we do configuration, not customization, or that kind of phrase. Actually sticking to configuration, which I know bleeds into customization, that would be the most sensible place for people to be, rather than trying to flex muscles. I get the scenario. I would still personally be getting caught in the other trap, because I want to make this other thing, I want to build it on steroids. Let's go. But I appreciate that then breaks part of the model in terms of them being able to operate it.
Yeah. Just realised we've been talking so much, I've made no notes about this podcast. So my summing
see
up.
See how good your summaries are, man. Your summary's going to not be on point today, is it?
Hello. Okay. All right. Is there anything else you want to bring on this one?
No, we could go in circles on it. I think the main stance is anybody who's in some sort of position where they're looking to the market, whether it's because they're not happy with what they're doing at the moment or like new strategy or whatever else, like I'm sure people would anyway, but pay some proper attention to the mid-market. It seems like a massively emerging space. And even if the technology you're looking at right now hasn't got what you need, I dare say you've not got the maturity to consume it. So look at something we ticks the box now and grow with it. It's the most logical position to be in.
Well, you've just said one of my favorite things ever, I think.
What's that one?
You probably don't have the maturity to consume it. And just going back to something we were saying earlier about AI ops, analytics, all that stuff. Everybody wants this right now, and they're like, "Oh, we need AI ops," and I'm like, your ability to consume it is so far out. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why are you buying this stuff now? But,
and it feels a bit sad to say it, but it's true, isn't it? Like you burn cash trying to reach a dream, but just do the guy who's doing the basic stuff, guys, girls doing the basic stuff consistently, day in, day out, they will surpass the people trying to do the fine stuff. That is almost like so factual. I just stick to the basic stuff, get it done well, you will begin to surpass your predecessors.
Yeah. Awesome. Right. So we've been talking about the mid-market tools revolution. That everyone's pretty much got some budget cuts, either here or coming, and people are looking at, could we, instead of just pinching money from the bigger vendors, could you go and have a look at mid-market or smaller companies that are maybe half or even quarter of the price of what you're doing, that could do the trick? And there's loads of really great examples out there, particularly in the ITSM, the analytics, the logging spaces, we think. But if you're going to do that, you need to go find something that's what you need, not necessarily what you think you need, but really what you need, i.e. like you would with an app on your phone. Just get something that does the trick. Make sure that if you're looking at things that have some advanced functions, are you really mature enough to consume those advanced functions, or could you get away with something even smaller? And try not to turn whatever you buy into something that would resemble an enterprise class tool. Just work with what you've got. What have I missed?
Considering you wasn't taking many notes, it's pretty decent, man. Might be a gap or two in there, I have no idea, but that's pretty good. Memorized more than I did.
Oh, wonderful. Right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on another edition of Not Another Tooling Podcast. As always, if you've got any helpful tips or hints or any questions, please drop them in the comments below, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much, Matt. See you on the next one.
In a bit.